Welcome to Insights into Success, where today I'm talking to Casey Jacox. Now, Casey's had an outstanding career in sales. He's also written the book Win the Relationship, Not the Deal, and is the host of a podcast, Quarterback DadCast. Casey's sought after by businesses wanting him to share his sales expertise. But what's particularly interesting about Casey is that a traumatic event in his childhood has had such a positive impact on his career. Now, what I'm hoping to do in this interview is to learn from Casey what exactly that event was, what he learnt from it, and why it's had such a beneficial impact on his outstanding career. So thank you so much, Casey, for agreeing to come on Insights into Success. I just would like, if you could, just to start off, kick this off by telling us a bit about yourself and where you're at with your career at the moment.
Yeah, you bet. No, I'm honored to join you, and thank you again for the opportunity to talk. So I am I don't want to talk about age, but I'll do it anyway, just to make it super authentic. I'm a mid-40s dad, married for 22 years. I got a 15-year-old son, 12-year-old daughter, who are turned out to be just great human beings. Super proud of them and the people they're becoming. I'm a sales and leadership coach, which found me in 2020. I did not go out looking to become that. I run a weekly podcast called the Quarterback DadCast, where I interview fathers, and I get them to talk about their childhood, where they grew up, what stories that impacted them. I get them to talk about areas where they wish they were a better dad, so that we can relate to them at home, and then we summarize nuggets of wisdom out of the episodes, so dads can take away key areas to really think about ways to improve their leadership skills at home. And lastly, I'm the author of the book called Win the Relationship, Not the Deal, which I wrote almost 2 years ago. And it's a book that I'm very proud of. I joked with you before we started joining today. I've learned from myself, which feels weird to say out loud. But it's one of those books that I hope sales leaders, salespeople read often, maybe every 3 or 4 years, because they're simple reminders of things that are very important on relationship building. And as a flawed human being, which we all are, we forget things. And this is one of those books that just common sense, I call reminders to help build relationships well inside and outside of work.
Wow.
Yeah. Before that, I spent 20 years in corporate at a company called K-Force. Great experience. Great. I could not have asked for a better divorce. Left on great terms. It's just kind of timing. Everything just aligned for them to go a different way, me to go a different way. And I hope that one day they might bring me back into some consulting capacity, just because I was very lucky to be surrounded by great teammates, amazing customers, great support staff, and all that tornado of goodness surrounded me, allowed me to become in the 60-year company history, the all-time leading salesperson in the company. And I was number one nationally for 10 years straight from a production perspective. So,
wow.
But it doesn't mean anything anymore, because now I'm doing something different.
So what was the business like? What did it do, or what does it do?
Yeah, Kforce was a professional staffing company servicing finance and accounting, technology, at times life science, healthcare. The division that I kind of started spinning off and evolving with customers I worked with was more of the project-based solution work, more risk-based engagements, statement of work, professional services, taking on more function versus the transaction of a body. So instead of providing one resource, we provided 10 to 20 to 80, and sometimes 100, servicing full aspects, full scope. And just once I learned that part of the game, we started to disrupt the industry a little bit. We started to disrupt different types of companies who were competing with us, because we traditionally weren't seen as a company that did that. We were stuck in kind of the transactional spot, and it was fun to help blaze a trail that people had not seen us do before.
Yeah. And what made you decide to leave? Can you tell me a bit about that? What happened in 2020?
Yeah, I was after the long stretch of being kind of top producer, they moved me to this executive role, which was amazingly fun. My old former boss helped create this role where I was doing a mix of leadership, coaching, executive support, marketing, speaking. And at the end of that 3-year run, they said, "Man, Case, we miss you selling. We miss you just going out to run your desk." And I'd done that for so long, and I figured out, what other options might be. And at the time, there really wasn't other options. And so we agreed that maybe this is a time. No one wanted it, but looking back, it couldn't have happened at a better time. It allowed me to achieve a life goal of writing a book. I know that there's people I stay in touch with at that company still that are I'm cheering for them, they're cheering for me, and so it's, like I said, it was an amazing divorce, and I think I have the utmost respect for Kforce and wish them nothing but the best.
And did that happen just prior to COVID? Like, where did it happen in timing relationship to COVID?
March 2019, I left.
Oh, 19. Okay, before COVID.
Yep. Before COVID.
And when you left, was the intention firstly to write your book before sort of moving on and thinking about other things that you were going to do?
The first thing was let's take some time and breathe. And see what the hell just happened and where am I and what do I want to do in life. And I knew I wanted to write a book, but I gave myself probably a month and a half, 2 months where it just did nothing. Like hung out with my wife, exercised more, hung out with my kids more, and then I started writing. I think I wrote the book in about 4.5 months, and I carved out, Monday through Friday from 9 to 11:30. And I literally wrote every day. And some days I thought, wow, that's gonna be really good, and it ended up being terrible. And there's days I thought it was gonna be, wow, this is gonna be really, really bad, and ended up being really, really good. So, and then after that, then the podcast idea came to me, and then I had decided to launch them on the same day. So January 2020, I launched the book announcement, and then the podcast started then. So, we're 93 episodes later, we're still going.
Wow. So tell me about the book though. Did you always right from the get-go have in your mind what you're going to write the book about? How did you decide what the topic was going to be?
Yeah, great question. I was in Dallas about 8 or 9 years ago, and I was the executive of our largest customer at the time. And I was helping build out our Dallas office. And at the time, they were so eager to please, because I was like the big brother, their little brother. They were trying to prove they knew what they were doing, and they were so competitive, and they wanted to win every deal. And I said, I want you to win every deal. You're not going to win every deal, but how can we win the people? How can you win the client when you lose the transaction of the business? And they looked at me like, I don't understand what you're talking about. It was like blank stare. And I said, we have to win people, not deals. And then it kept going. And I said, we have to win the relationship, not the deal. So I said, let me give you an example, guys. If we lose a consulting deal to ABC company, and then 2 weeks later, I follow up the client after we already lost, and I said, hey, Paul, it's Casey with Kforce. I'm calling to make sure that everything you got from ABC company was what they said. I'm calling to make sure that the consultants you brought on board are achieving or exceeding expectation. And I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to serve and compete, and I hope there's a chance for us in the future. Just all about them. And I always did that ever since the day I started in business. And by doing that, I would pick up more low-hanging fruit deals where sometimes the client would say, no, hey, Casey, thanks for following up. I have not heard from the people that won the business yet. Or, hey, thanks for following up. No, the consultants never started. Are your guys still available? And I would pick up deals that way. So I use those examples to the team. And then from there, I was like, that's it. And I did one blog post that ended, if I look back, it's probably not as good as I thought it was at the time. But I knew I was going to write it, and that was the title of the book. And I waited till I did not want to write when I was still in corporate, because I didn't want it to be a distraction. I didn't want to have an excuse, a reason to not do it. And so once I was out, I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's. And it's been super, super humbling. I think I have 77-ish reviews on Amazon. I think everybody's been 5-star except for one. And they're all organic. It's just been people being kind and warm-hearted. So I'm very thankful for that.
Wow. So from what I understand in the book, you're actually quite open about sharing with people the things that you've done wrong in the hope of them learning from your mistakes. Is that the case?
100%. If I'm not going to lead from the front and showing what I'm doing wrong, I don't think it's just going to be one more book, one more guy on a pedestal telling people how great they are. And sure, there's stories of success in the book, but there's a lot of stories of failure. There's a story of failure of me not following up when I said I was going to do. There's stories of failure of me not listening as well as I should have early in my career. There's a story of me late in my career where I got called out by one of our vendors we hired, I was helping lead a sales transformation. And the guy in front of everybody says, Casey, what I heard about you is that you're elite. The performance you just gave is nowhere near elite. Who's up next? Right in front of everybody. And I talk about the way where I never had an ego. If I did, didn't last very long. As a college quarterback, it was always about the team. And as a seller, as a top seller, was never, of course I got the success, but I was more inspired to get every person's name I could think of out for their support of me. Whether it's your back office, I think of, people like, I'll still say Mary Jo Ferris, Sonia Goodwin, Thea Mundy, Renell Aquino, Kelly Hansen, all these guys they've worked with for years.
Yeah.
Rob Cornwell, all these people that, to me, that was what it's about. So there's stories for days. Long-winded answer to say it.
So to me, to be that honest and transparent in a book makes it that much more powerful, because so often people write books and they create, and it's a bit like social media these days, where they go and Photoshop images to make themselves look more perfect than what they are and create this unrealistic expectation. To me, people are going to get far more out of a book if a person is open and honest and shares their mistakes, because it means that people feel that it's more achievable for them to get the same sort of success as what the author has. It makes the author more authentic, more genuine. Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I really applaud you for that, because for me, that makes the book that much more powerful than just someone who preaches that they're perfect and doesn't make mistakes and creates this totally unrealistic expectation. Yeah,
well, hopefully we can pick up some New Zealand readers. I'd be if there's a listener out there that finds it on Amazon. I will say that, and I should also say that I'm not sure when our episode's going to come out, Paul, but the Audible has been finished. I'm in final production of that, so that will be also, I'll have it via Kindle, paperback, and also it will be available via Audible. But in my coaching practice that found me, again, I didn't find it. And maybe I can tell you that story of how I found it if you want me to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, go for
it. In 2020, there's a gentleman by the name of Andrew Moss. Shout out to Andrew. He's a coach up in Toronto. And in 2020, I approached each day like I needed to work, but I didn't need to work as bad as I needed to work. But I wanted to start getting the mind back in the competitive mode, get the mind back in networking mode, and I love meeting people. I love serving people. And so I started having companies reach out to me and say, hey, will you coach? Coaches, and said, no, that's not really what I do. I wrote a book. I'm a sales guy for years, but it's not really what I do. And then that's why I was like, God, maybe I should think about this. And so I called Andrew, and we had a Zoom one day, and I said, hey, can I ask you a question? I said, I'm thinking about doing this coaching thing, but I'm not certified. I didn't go to a certification. And he looks me dead in the eye. He goes, Casey, can I be honest with you? I go, yeah. He goes, no, I'm going to be really, really honest with you. I'm like, I played college football. I've been in tough business environments. I can take it. Hit me right between the eyes. He goes, so what I heard about you is you're top sales guy. Whatever, who cares? You've been executives in these companies. Who cares? You've been executives in nonprofits. Who cares? You wrote a book to back it up. I'm like, yeah. He goes, get out of my mother effing face and go help people. That's your certification. And I was just like, what? But it was the best thing yet, because I was stuck for no reason other than my own insecurities. And so now my certification is, I got 25 years of street fights. I got 25 years of failure. I got 25 years of selling at a very elite level. Am I elite now? No, I'm on a path of mastery. I'm all the great things I did at K-Force they'll mean a lot when I'm 92 in an assisted living facility. Right now, I'm out to strive to be the best coach, to sharpen my game, to continue to work on listening, asking great questions. And so coaching found me that way. It's a huge shout out. If Andrew doesn't say that to me that one day, I probably wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing now.
And so, when you quit your job and you wrote the book, what was in the back of your mind that you were going to do long term at that stage?
I did not have plans, and it was so peaceful. I read a book called The Surrender Experiment in 2020 after I wrote the book, and the Surrender Experiment, it was a little out there from a spirituality perspective at times for those, but for me, what I got out of it was, it's okay not to know every answer. Like the interview question you get, what do you want to do in 3 years? I don't know. Yeah. I know I want to be around people I like, I trust. I know I want to be serving people, but I don't know what I'm going to be doing. Yeah. I know I'm going to be honest and ethical and competitive and loving and forgiveness. I know that.
Yeah.
But the surrender experiment just kind of got me to surrender. It's about surrendering to life's flow.
Yeah.
And just to focus on bringing the servant mindset out of me that has always been there. And so it brought this piece of, I didn't have to know all the answers. And I think what I also appreciate about the journey I took, I started a consulting business or my own business because I planned for, I always lived below my means. I'll say it that way. I never had to close a deal during the week to pay for a car payment.
Yeah.
I was always saving. And I think that helped me just further cement the relationship-based selling mindset, because I wasn't like, trading the Oldsmobile for a Benz. I was always driving like my friend Kelly used to joke. He said, you need to get a bumper sticker on the back of your Mazda 626 that says happiness is being a grandparent. So, anyway, and it's funny. I don't know if I'm going to do this coaching thing forever. I don't know if I'll go back to work for a company. I'm open-minded to all of it, but I can tell you right now, I'm having more fun than I've had in years. I'm learning that when you do something for as long as I did it, you take for granted how much you know. And then when you start seeing, I have clients in the wealth management space, marketing, staffing, consulting, and a common gap that I solve and I quickly expose for a lot of these companies, and there's probably companies who are listening right now, is they don't practice, and which blows my mind. And they don't ask enough questions. They don't ask enough open-ended questions, which I call TED-based. Tell me, explain, describe. I learned that from a guy named John Kaplan, big mentor of mine in my career. So I don't. And to me, it's fun. Like even today, when I do my own podcast, or I speak for companies, or I get ready to run a webinar for associations, I'll still come in my office where you can see me now, and I'll tell my kids, hey guys, Dad's going to be in the office for 45 minutes. Please don't interrupt me unless the house is on fire. I'm practicing for this. And I do that for two reasons. One, I need the time to practice, but two, I'm telling them because I want them to know I'm not fully, all the times I tell them about, hey, practicing for your basketball game, your golf shot, your test, I'm still practicing as a 45-year-old dude.
Yeah.
And I hope to practice till I'm however long I get to live on earth.
Yeah.
I think it just creates more genuine relationships and it brings more of that realness of like, life isn't that difficult if I just kind of get out of my own way and check my ego.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. So getting back to your book, who's the book for? Who should read the book?
The book is for 4 different types of groups. The book is for an executive who does not understand why his or her sales teams are not excelling and they're stuck. The book is for someone who's right out of school. The book is for someone in their mid 30s who's also like, what should I do? Or I want to make sure all my team thinks this way. And I need to figure out, what am I doing wrong? That's just, at one time I was elite, but now I'm stuck. What do I need to do? And the last group I wrote for was for colleges or universities.
Right.
And I wrote it because I think when colleges, they teach the academic side, they don't teach the art of selling. There's actually, I'm not sure in New Zealand, but here in the States, there's some schools now that actually have selling classes. Central Washington University, Oregon State, Seattle University, a few schools that come to mind. And they actually have selling competitions. I've judged some of these things for them. Wow. And because when you graduate, you get in these jobs, high pressure sales jobs, they'll say, all right, well, get on the phone and start building relationships. And most of the kids these days, they're building relationships through text or through Snapchat or through Facebook. And what I'm teaching is stuff that worked, that's been talked about since 1700, a guy named Orson Swett Martin, who wrote Success Magazine back in 1797, one of the most successful self-investment, self-help magazines of all time. He also wrote a book called Pushing to the Front, one of the most famous books of all time. And I'm like, okay, if the golden rule was popular back there, it's also in my book. If all these things are important, I like to learn from history. And sure, technology is going to change, sure, it's going to evolve, but it's tough to automate the human experience because a computer can't always feel my pain. They might think you can, but they can't. Yeah. A computer's not going to dig deeper and ask me another TED-based question. Tell me more, Casey. Describe how that negatively impacts you. Tell me what would happen if we made that go away. Describe what success looks like. A computer's not going to do that. A text isn't going to do that. My voice will do that. My ears will listen to those cues to ask authentic, open-ended questions. So my book is for people looking to bring some old school habits to relationship building, because right now out of 2020, the things that I've been talking about for years and been passionate about are humility, vulnerability, and empathy. Those are the hottest buzzwords right now in the States. I'm not sure in New Zealand. And I'm like, I've been talking about this almost my whole career. And I just kind of giggle to myself, like it's just like, this hot new topic. But I'm like, those things never get old. They never get out of. It never gets old to be nice to somebody, to ask someone how they're feeling, to go out of your way to help your support team. So a lot of these long-winded way of answering your question. Those four groups. So colleges, executives who are looking to shape their mindset of a seller, someone who's stuck, and then for someone right out of school, would be the four buckets.
And what has been the impact of the book for you? What has it done to your life, having written that book?
So the sarcastic answer is I proved that us football players can put sentences together. We're not as dumb. Joking aside, it made me really proud. It made me, it proved that why not me? And it helped me further that mindset of we all can do anything we put our minds to. I mean, that's a cliche, but I believe in that stuff. If someone told Barack Obama, hey, you're going to be the first African-American president of the United States, why not? I told my daughter, why don't you be the first female president? I'd follow you. Why not you? Someone's going to do it. It proved it's opened up a lot of doors for speaking and consulting and coaching that I was not naive to how quickly that was going to start happening. I've not really marketed myself. It's been organic. I had a non-compete with my employer, so I stayed in the sidelines. I didn't really talk about all this stuff until afterwards. I think March 15th of 2020, my non-compete expired. March 2017, I had two companies hire me on the spot. I'm like, to do what? We don't care. Teach us what you did in 20 years. Help us find our gaps. Do an assessment, coach us, work with our executives, work with our sales team. We need help. So when I started having those types of engagements happen, it made me think wow. And then to your point about the book, there's raw stories in there and very applicable things that people can hopefully relate to. I had someone recently tell me it was the most simplistically written yet complex book I've ever read. So
that's interesting. It's interesting. And so for you, did you ever sort of feel that you suffered from what they call imposter syndrome? You're kind of worried that, who are you to be writing a book and who are you to be consulting with people? Did you suffer from that, and did writing the book help you get over that to the point that you now feel, comfortable in your own skin that, you do have something to offer?
No, two things come to mind when you ask that question. When I think of imposter syndrome, I think of people saying to fake it till you make it, which is the worst advice any leader can ever give any single person. When I hear that, it's like every nail on a chalkboard I could ever hear, because fake it till you make it means you're not being yourself. And I heard a speaker named Mike Robbins speak. He said the number one reason to be yourself is because everybody else is already taken. So true. So simple, so true. The reason why I didn't get imposter syndrome is because, back to the kind of thing we talked about a second ago, I'm not making this stuff up. Right? Now, if I had never been a number one rep before, but I was 10 years straight nationally at a publicly traded company, I didn't make that up. So if I can't control how people respond, I can control how I show up each day. I can control my attitude, my effort. So if people want to judge, it's not going to bug me. There's billions and billions of people on earth. I know people are going to think I'm a tool and a moron, but I think the stuff I wrote about, I'd be willing to bet on me that a higher likely of time I'm going to make more friends than enemies.
So from your point of view then, that you just felt comfortable in your own skin, so you weren't too worried about what other people thought and whether they thought that you had the right to to be, writing this book. You just like, well, I've done what I've done, and I want to share what I've done, and that's all there is to it. Is that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, and I didn't write the book to make. Now, if I wrote the book like, oh my God, I have to make $14 in profit a book. I got to sell 30,000, and it's gonna pay for my house. Like, I didn't write a book to make money. I wrote a book, God's honest truth, to impact one person. If I change one person's life, and they're like, wow, this is all this dude did. He focused on treating people, follow the golden rule. He talked about setting expectations on follow-up. He talked about the difference between listening and hearing. He taught me about why documentation is so important. He talked about checking your ego and being coachable and practice. And then he talked to me about just being patient. That's all I got to do, those 6 things. And that's what he achieved. Yeah, it's exactly what and so I am so passionate about that. Now, I think my confidence has risen now that I've seen how many people it's impacted.
Yeah.
I think I'd be lying to myself. Sure, when it goes live, there's a 2% of you that I'm like, I hope it does well. I'd be lying to myself. I didn't say that, but it didn't. I wasn't losing sleep over it.
Yeah.
I think I had what's called a pre-launch. So I had 10 people that I knew that read it before it was out. One of them was a former boss that he was almost like, he said the nicest things and it blew me away. And then I had a former college teammate who's an executive over an insurance company, and he said, he was almost in tears. He goes, bro, I'm so proud of you. I can't believe you did this. And that's when I start hearing those things. The analogy I like to give is, it's when I was a junior in high school and someone said, hey, Casey, you're going to be our starting quarterback and a captain. I'm like, I am? Really? Like, people would speak truth into me. It's not that I wasn't confident. I didn't think about myself, my own. I just was staying in the moment and doing what I'm doing. I wasn't thinking about like the outcomes. I was following the process. And when I look back, there's a guy named David Gorsuch who saw me a year ago, and he's a peer of mine at our Limitless Minds we work with. And he said, look out, this thing's going to start growing. And I was like, really? Even as all the things I've done, I still was like, just focusing on serving each person, focus on the day, the moment, and not worrying about like trying to get like too big of,
maybe ahead of yourself.
Yeah, it just keeps me grounded because complacency I always tell people I coach, complacency is a silent killer. It'll sneak up on you before you know it. So humility is a gift that you give yourself and the team. So you might as well stay humble before you get humbled. I always say change is going to happen, or you can either deal with change or you can get dealt by it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen regardless. So like, if I can just stay grounded, focus on the 6 things I wrote about, focus on maximizing my 1,440 minutes a day, which is what we all get. And I just commit to myself that I'm not going to let one bad call, one bad meeting, one bad engagement turn into one bad day, one bad week, bad month, bad quarter, and this snowball. Because when we don't stay present and grounded in what we teach at Limitless Minds, it's called staying neutral. It allows for bad stuff to happen, bad habits to happen.
Yeah. So tell me about your podcast. I'm interested for you to share with us a bit more about your podcast, what the motivation was for that, and what exactly you cover in your podcast.
Yeah, I did a mini podcast internally for K-Force before I left, and then I didn't really know what to do to get the podcast going. And there's one of my great friends, college teammates, guy named Ty Nunez. One day he goes, dude, I'm coming to your house. Get all the gear. We're gonna write out the show script. We're gonna build your list of your people. You're gonna get going. We're gonna do it together. I'm like, okay. And he literally kicked me in my own, you know what? And we did this together. And then we both said it's probably gonna be better if I just do this thing solo. But it's been so therapeutic. It continues to be therapeutic every week. I interview the person, I get to hear it, and then I get to listen to it afterwards. And again, I'm not making money on this podcast, but I'm serving dads, and the reviews in the iTunes store are super humbling, and it keeps me grounded. It keeps me focused on being the best dad I can be. I've interviewed a stay-at-home dad. I've interviewed famous college basketball players. I've interviewed executives. I've interviewed a guy named Michael Gervais. That's a big guest. He runs something called Finding Mastery. Runs a big podcast here in the States. I've interviewed one of my great friends, Dale Favors, African American. I interviewed him right in the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I said I want to expose and get uncomfortable as a white, middle-aged, privileged white man who, we hit on the word privilege about there's a lot of, I would say, I don't want to turn this podcast to craziness off track, but I would say privileged, sometimes white middle-aged people think about like, well, I work hard, and it's not. And I think that was so helpful for me to dive into these topics of and I made my kids watch me interview them. So I wanted them to see Dad go through this, and it was great. And I learned about different books. I learned about different podcasts. I'm just stretching my mind to serve others, to like, make sure that everyone doesn't look like me with my LinkedIn network. Make sure everybody on my podcast doesn't always look like me. So one of my big goals of 2021 is just a lot of diversity. Not just from, a black and white, but like different cultures.
Yeah.
The one negative feedback I've received is that, I wish we had more women on the podcast. Now listen, I'm all for women. I love supporting women, but the podcast is for dads. That's my market. And I'm trying to expose fathers to become the best dads. And there's some moms who listen to it and they love listening because they get to hear dads open up. And for whatever reason, I have a gift to be able to do that. I think it's my biz dev background. I'm very curious. And so I ask tons of questions and get them to share things and go down memory lane. So not to say I will never be, but right now that my focus is on just interviewing dads and trying to help explore that vulnerability side of their communication skills.
So for you, really, the podcast, you don't have any long-term plan with it. You're just kind of like going with it, and really you're learning from it, and hopefully listeners are learning from it too at the same time. Is that fair?
My simplest goals are produce another episode next week.
Right.
I have 2 sponsors, so I didn't anticipate that happening. A company called Acme Homes, Washington, and Catch Sickasy Foods. Like, the fact that they got behind me is like, it forces me to be on my game every week, be prepared, edit it well. I guess one goal would be to eventually outsource some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm HR, I'm finance, I'm corporate janitor, coffee guy, I'm everything.
Yeah. But that's that's just all part of it though, isn't it really, and there's, I don't know, sometimes, big is not always best, and that's the thing I think for a lot of people like listening to these podcasts and that can respect the fact that it's not being done for money. It's being done for enjoyment. It's been done to hopefully learn, both the person running the podcast and hopefully the listeners too. And I think that's cool. People don't expect it has to be a Hollywood production.
Right.
They get it. It's interesting, actually, just slightly off topic with that, but with podcasts, I was reading, they're saying about with podcasts, some people, they're getting too fancy with their podcasts and they have this big introduction music and a whole bunch of stuff before they actually get into the podcast. And that people are kind of turning off that a bit. They just kind of want to know what this podcast is about and then decide whether they're going to continue listening or move on. So, I don't know. I mean, sometimes basic can be better. It doesn't have to be too fancy. It's more about the content. And I think, when I talk to people about like doing videos and that just for businesses, my message to them is it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as the content's good, that's number one. People will forgive, if the camera work's not, a Hollywood production, but if the content's there, that's a critical point. And I think the same probably with podcasts is that if you've got good content, then it doesn't have to be a Hollywood production where you've got a team of 10 around you running it. Right.
I tell you, the one thing that was the most enjoyable part of my podcast, I mean, beyond getting great guests and having people and like some it's like, I can't believe I'm talking to this guy. This is crazy. The thing that trumps that is having my kids, Ryder and Riley, this past year, they were part of the introduction, part of my commercials.
Oh, wow.
And so if people find it, there was one where, hilarious, my daughter who's did not like fish. And so I got her to try the smoked salmon and the halibut from Catch Sickasy Foods up in Sitka, Alaska. And she's like, Dad, this is really good. This is like I've never tasted before. I'm like, this is what fresh seafood from the dock to the door, this is what it tastes like. And so she was talking to one of her friends one day, and her friend goes, they're somehow talking, and her friend loves fish. And her friend said, Riley, I don't like burgers. I don't like that. I'm a pescatarian. And Riley's like, oh yeah, well, I'm a pizzatarian. We started laughing about it. So I was a great interview spot to to highlight the seafood company because I said, not this is legit. One, they don't send me anything. I'm a customer. I buy it, but they changed a pizzatarian into someone who now likes halibut and smoked salmon. So if that's not a case study or testimony, I don't know what is. And so I had her talk about it, and it was really cute. And so
that's awesome.
Makes me know and what's interesting, when my son did it, his voice has dramatically changed. He's grown like 5 inches. And so hearing him on the podcast now, I'll be like, who's that dude?
Yeah.
Grown man now, this deep voice.
Captured in time though. And keep that for prosperity.
Right.
So, okay, so what I'd like to do now, Casey, is for you, I'd like to take a step back in time. I want to go back to your early childhood, just so that we can kind of get a bit of an understanding of how you've come to be where you are right now, and whether there's been any events in your life that have been influential and that have helped you to get to where you are. So maybe if you could start with telling us, like, where did you grow up? Where were you born and grew up?
Yeah, I was born in actually the capital of Washington, called Lacey, Washington, Olympia, Washington, right outside of Olympia. I grew up in the suburb of Seattle, probably 30 minutes southeast of Seattle. Elementary school, junior high, high school, middle class. Just didn't have a ton, but had plenty. Didn't go on a ton of vacations. Maybe they were camping. I went on 2 airplane rides my whole life up to then. So. And then, played a ton of sports, basketball, baseball, football, got into golf, and had great parents, supportive parents, always around, always had fun, very social. And then that took me to Central Washington University, where I was, went on to play football, and great memories there. But yeah, that's probably where it's a quick snapshot of what it was like growing up for me.
So tell me though, particularly, off camera before, you've told me a little about an event with you with playing football at high school that for you has been quite influential in your life. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what it was that you got out of that experience that's really flowed through to where you are now?
Yeah, I love telling the story because it keeps me grounded in the moment, but it happened 28 years ago, and I was my junior year in high school. I was skinny, looked like, for those in New Zealand, I don't know if you've heard of the movie Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I was like the skinny kid, looked like a pumpkin on a toothpick. Like, you could, 6'1", 140. Like, they used to call me meat potatoes. Like, bro, you got to get in the weight room, start eating. And before my junior year, my high school football coach, Marty Osborne, said, "Hey, you can be our starter." I'm like, "Sure, you got the right, Casey?" Like, what? He's like, "You can be our starter, but here's what you got to do. You got to lift. All the things, bench, squat, clean, all the metrics of things." And so I was like, "Oh my God, I can do this." And so I found this drive when inside me got opened up. And I remember from like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting after he told me that, I was getting up at like 5:30 in the morning, lifting weights with the offensive line at our high school before school. Monday, Wednesday, Friday after school, I began lifting weights. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I throw the football to anybody. I don't care if you're the band, wood shop, teacher, my sister, my mom, dad. Somebody was going to catch the football.
Right. And
that work ethic took me right into the fall camp from like January all the way through August. We got into last couple weeks of training camp, and we were split. I'd have a good day, he'd have a good day, and then at the end, we weren't sure who was going to be named starter. Week 1 of our junior year, I'm stretching, and we still don't know. And my coach walks by, taps me on the shoulder, he goes, "Hey, are you ready to be our starting quarterback this week?" And I looked at him like, "Oh my God." He goes, "You're a guy, let's go." And I wanted to like frickin' scream and jump around like a 5-year-old who just got his first bike. But I was trying to play it cool. And I remember I could not wait to tell my mom and dad that, for them is what a proud day to see your son, who's a skinny kid, that he put on 30, 40 pounds and to work his ass off to achieve. But now I was like, "Okay, great, you're the starter, but now go keep it. Do your job." And so we went on to have like an okay junior season, ups and downs, started getting recruited a little bit by some colleges, nothing big. And then between my junior year and senior year, I went to the University of Washington football camp just because my teammate was going from high school, and I wanted to see how would I stack rank against some of these other teams, other quarterbacks around the state. And there's actually guys that flew in from other states. And I knew I was throwing it well. I knew I wasn't throwing it bad, but I was like, I can hang with a lot of these guys. And I didn't even know there was an award ceremony at the end. I didn't know this was like a recruiting thing. I had no idea. I just want to see kind of how I stacked up and play with a really, really good talent.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the camp, they're giving out awards. My running back teammate, Kevin Childs, he ends up winning an award. I was like, oh, dude, this is so cool. And then the very last award was the most outstanding quarterback of the camp. And I'm like, who's gonna, you would have 1 out of 100. I was like, no way, it's me. And they freaking announced my name at Husky Stadium over the loudspeaker. I'm like, oh my God. And my buddy goes nuts. I walk down, I get like all this Husky gear, a painting. And the guy's like, hey, you're now on our radar. Here's tickets to all of our home games. You need to send us your best game film, September, October, November. We're going to be at a game September, October, November. You just won't know it. And I'm like, oh my God. And now my confidence is going through the roof. Now I'm feeling strong. And so the guy that I beat out my junior year to play quarterback, he's now playing tight end for us. So fast forward now to the very first, we had this thing called a jamboree in the States, which is a practice game, a set of practice games, situational plays. And in that game, we were doing awesome, crushing teams. But for whatever reason, the last play of the jamboree, I get put back in. I thought I was done for the day. And I still remember the play, Lee Wright and Andy Reid. The snap from the center, it was a younger offensive line, short, small, slow snap. The defensive tackle shoots the gap. His knee gets on top of my foot, my right foot now, and I can't move my foot. I'm trying to move and I'm stuck. All of a sudden, the defensive end comes around and hits me in the back. And so one guy's low, one guy's high. And I felt like, if you can imagine the tongue of your shoe just explodes. Like I felt like it flew off, broke my shoelaces. And I try to get up. I take a step and collapse. I'm like, uh-oh. I immediately go into shock. I can't really walk. The trainer comes out and they're like, yeah, Casey, I think you'll be all right. We'll get you some ibuprofen. You'll be probably back by Monday. We'll just ice it. So I was like, either you have no idea what you're talking about, or I'm a big wuss and this is not that big a deal. All these thoughts coming through my mind. And then the shock started to wear off and the pain started getting worse. And I started feeling tears in my eyes. And my mom and dad are like, we got to get you, let's go to the ER, just double check nothing's broke. Doctor comes out, he goes, Casey, I got bad news. We'll be in surgery within 2 hours. You broke 3 bones in your foot, 1 bone right in half, the other bone's slightly cracked.
Wow.
You're done for the year.
Oh, wow. Devastating.
Yep, done for the year. And I was just in shock. I mean, I worked so hard and it was gone like that, which has been an amazing life lesson because we're only guaranteed today. We're only guaranteed this podcast interview. We're only guaranteed you have to earn each day. Right. And that was the biggest lesson I learned. So the gentleman who I beat out my junior year, now who's playing tight end, he's now forced to go play quarterback. And he has to go lead the team. And, Casey's still feeling sorry for himself. And I want people to, hey, how you feeling? And all that started happening less and less and less. Well, his name's Shane. Shane would go on, the quarterback, to lead our team to the state playoffs, first time in 20 years. He would break our single season passing yardage record, first time in 20 years, and was named second team all-league quarterback. All the things that I wanted to go do, but I had to just watch.
Yeah.
And, for the first 3 games, I was the worst teammate. I was selfish. I was immature. I was a captain, not acting like it. I'll tell you that. I was hoping he was going to play bad. I was hoping that bad things would happen to him. I was feeling sorry. Everything that you could not want a captain do, I was doing it. And whatever happened, I don't know why this happened, but something clicked. And I went one morning, I said, I got to go talk to Coach. And I literally was almost in tears. And I said, Coach, I'm embarrassed by my behavior. I'm embarrassed by my mindset, my attitude. I'm not being a captain. I need your help. And he was like, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, what do you mean you're proud of me? I still kind of had a bad attitude. He's like, I'm proud of you because you had the vulnerability to come ask for help. I'm proud of you that this is what a captain does. This is what you're showing me. And I go, Case, there's a role for this team. I go, like what? And I still had a kind of a chip. And he's like, I got the perfect role. Why don't you go up in the booth? You know this offense just as good or better than I do. Help me call plays. You're my offensive coordinator. And when he said that, Paul, I felt like you took a vacuum and sucked every ounce of negativity, bad attitude, and all of a sudden, boom, I had clarity. I had purpose. Someone spoke truth into me again. And I remember I went down on crutches. I gave like the speech of my life. I told these guys that, hey, I don't care how, I better never see people not jogging. Not running. I better never see people giving piss poor effort. I better not, because I would put on a helmet right now, but they won't. Doctors won't let me do it. I'm begging to have the opportunity you have right now. So don't disrespect me or the teammates and it was fun. It was so fun. And so fast forward from that moment to college, and I went to Central Washington University. They kind of gave a flyer on me. My coach, Marty Osborne, played football there in 1981, 82 at Central Washington. And they said, we'll give you a shot. I was the last quarterback taken. They paid for my camp fee, and I was still responsible for my books and stuff. And then 12th on the depth chart when I got there, and then slowly started chipping away. And then, fast forward the story, I ended up being the 3-year starter, 2.5 years, 2.5, almost 3 years. All league, both junior and senior year, finished the season. I was an All-American quarterback. And I equate that success to that moment. I equate my business success. There's not a day go by when I don't think about that moment. And best thing never happened to me, because I think that moment has unleashed so much humility in me, because I never want to go through that experience again. And so I don't want to get bigger than, we're all replaceable. I always tell people like Coach Paul, if I dialed 911, your phone, my phone, it's not ringing unless you're a volunteer fireman without me knowing it. Right?
So true. So I just find it incredibly mature of you at that age to recognize the bad space that you were in and to actually reach out to do something about that. I would have thought, most people of that age would have been in denial and have carried on with that sort of behavior. So, I'm just super impressed at the fact that you actually were able to recognize it and you reached out and talked to your coach.
My parents raised me well. I have another embarrassing story as a 12-year-old, if you want me to tell that one.
Yeah, no, go for it. Love to hear.
So this one, I like telling the story too. This one shaped me. So when I was 11 years old, first time playing fast pitch baseball. I was like, I was a good athlete, but like we had coach pitch, and I was in this new town where it was full on fast pitch. Like, we're playing real baseball. And the very first game, we go against this guy. I swear he looked like 6'10". He looked like just an absolute monster. And he had no idea where the ball was going. I was scared for my life. Like, oh my God, I picked the wrong sport. And I remember the first plate appearance, I ended up getting a walk. I'm just like, thank God he didn't hit me. And the next at bat, I'm like, there's not a chance in hell, Paul, I'm going back up there. Fake a stomach ache. I'm like, I'm sick. I can't go. I told him, coach, my stomach's off. I can't go. Cowardly approach. On the way home, my mom's like, how are you feeling better? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, your stomach. Oh, Mom, I faked it. I didn't want to face that big tall guy. I just told my mom, that's a safe zone. She's like, head whips back. You did what? She's like, well, here's what we're going to do when we get home. You're going to call the coach, or I'm going to call him. Scratch that note. You're going to call him. So I had to call the coach and tell him what I did. And he's like, wow, Casey, I'm really disappointed in you, but I'm happy you made the phone call. Now, for this to officially go away and us to forgive you as a team, you're going to tell your 11-year-old teammates at practice on Tuesday night. This was on Saturday, so I had Sunday and Monday just to stir and sit in my own pile of you-know-what and wait. And so, I'm 40. That was 30-something years ago. I still think about that, that moment of learning of, I think that probably led to my humility of, so kudos to my mom and kudos to my coaches for help shaping me. And hopefully I meet people in the world that are continue to shape me.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't sort of go into my story, but I learned at a young age, much like you, the lesson of it's important to own up to your mistakes, and honesty is the best policy. And it's something I carry through to this day. I had a situation where I did something and my mother made me go down and own up to what I had happened. And it was hard. It was hard to do it, but it stayed with me forever. And to this day, with my kids, with my employees and that, it's like, if you make a mistake with your client, be honest, own up to it. Don't try and fake it. You're much better to be honest. You start telling lies or to start trying to cover up, you're digging yourself a bigger hole and you're going to make it so much worse for yourself. It might hurt, but long term, it's less painful to be honest and own up to your mistakes than to try and cover up.
So simple, but so profound that people need to be reminded of. So well said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, okay, so you finished university. So you didn't have the desire, or you didn't want to go on with your sporting career with your American football?
No, I did. I got teased in the what's called the Arena League. That's kind of defunct now. But I played. I had a tryout with a team in Portland. I got cut, and then I worked for about 8 months, and I had a call from my agent, and there was a chance to go play on a team in San Jose. And then I was like faced with this decision, like, what am I going to do? And at the time, I'd kind of given up. Like, I'm like, not given up, like giving up hope. Like, okay, my new football is going to be business.
Yeah.
And that journey, and so. If I would have done it, I would have made, 30, 40 grand. And then I'd be working at a warehouse for 6 months. And it's like, I just know. And then once I said I'm done, I had a chance to go over in smaller Europe too and play. And I decided not to do that. But once I realized I was done, it was like this 500-pound rock off my chest. Like,
yeah.
And that was a great chapter. And let's go. And I would coach my old high school. I'd coach quarterbacks. I had that same competitive love of, being a quarterback or leader of the team. I coached many youth sports. And so I still get to have the enjoyment of those memories of the football experience. I'm not playing anymore.
Yeah. So tell us about your sales career, how that started off and what was the secret to your success there?
Yeah. So first sales job was a company called Barcodes West. They were labels. I called them stickers. We were selling warehouse management solutions. And typical first sales job when you're making 6,000 phone calls, and you're not really sure what the hell's going on. You're thinking quantity is way better than quality. I started selling, started having some success, but I never made a dime commission. I was like, God, something doesn't seem right here. Like selling stuff, not making commission. And then I went to my boss after a year, and I said, hey, he's like, what are your goals for next year? I said, well, I want to double my salary, and I want to be in front of the customer. He's like, Casey, those are way too aggressive goals for somebody your age. We got to rethink these. And right when I heard that, I was like, okay, that's a sign. This is not for me. And then I went. My buddy was trying to get me to leave because he was trying to get me to join this company called Hall Kenyon, which would end up getting bought by Kforce in June of 2004. And he was like, what, staffing and contractors? Like what? And temporary labor? Like what is, I don't understand it. I interviewed 9 times with this company, convinced them I'm their guy. They're like, God, you're green. You don't know what the hell we're doing. And like, I kept competing and convincing them. And so they decided to hire me as an hourly sales contractor, making $16 an hour, which was $1 more than I was making at Barcodes West. I was like, jackpot, done. And I'm thinking, I'm no kids, early married, 16 bucks an hour, what? And how dumb of a decision that was. I had no insurance. They could have canned me easy as a contractor for one bad phone call. I didn't think about that. And next thing they said, our goal is to convert you after 6 months. Well, after 3 months, they were like, whoa, we might have got lucky here. And I never looked back. And so I think 3 years later, I was the number 1 guy at Hall Kenyon. And then just been on this path of mastery, this path of growth, path of never getting, like I talked about when we first started off, you're just never getting bigger than the moment. Realizing that you're going to have bad days, deals are going to go south. But once I quickly realized that, I learned this late in my career, and I love teaching younger companies this and executives, is once you as a seller can learn that a deal is won or lost in the discovery phase, life becomes a lot more clear. And then once you learn that it's easy to blame the customer, someone else for why things didn't happen, or you can say, no, what question did I not ask that made this deal go sideways? What could I ask differently to make this more positive for someone else? Why did the deal go? So these self-reflecting, point the finger at yourself, which no one likes to do. They like pass blame and be the hero of their own story or the victim. And I think that was my secret. I stayed true to that. I was constantly seeking coaching. I was constantly asking people for help. Hey, tell me how that meeting went. What could I have done differently? I always wanted to get better. I always wanted to get pushed. And I think that's why I had the run that I had. People see the end. They don't see the, I don't even know if people listening to this podcast know what the classified ads were. So like I used to look at the classified ads on Sunday to find out all the companies in the Seattle area that are hiring. And that was my lead list. I would call them, introduce, they have talent shortages. I'm going to go introduce myself to them. They might not have needs now, but they will in the future. And I would just start calling those people. I'm always just trying to think. And I think the position of quarterback also helped me in sales career because it allowed me to anticipate. Just like I'm throwing to a receiver who's a moving target, I had to anticipate when they're going to be open. Well, in business, I have to anticipate when things might not feel right. And do I blind eye or do I attack it head on, kind of like your honesty example? So, long answer, that's my sales career.
And now here you are. So sales consultant, podcast host, author. It's been a heck of a journey.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought this guy? But it's so fun. It's so fun.
And the exciting thing is you don't quite know where it's going to go, but you're out there doing things, and you know that by being out there doing things, something's bound to happen. Opportunities will arise. If you sit at home, don't expect a lot of things to happen to you in life, but if you get out there and do things, then opportunities will come your way. So, I think you're doing great.
You said that. Sorry to interrupt you, Paul. You said that, and you made me think of I recorded a video on LinkedIn on Friday. So this is June 16th, would have been last week, June whatever, 12th or 11th or whatever. And I was coaching one of my clients, and what you just said, I paraphrased with a statement. I said, I told my client, I said, do you want to be uncomfortable in the game or comfortable on the sidelines?
Yeah.
Choice. And I know the answer because you hired me already, so I'm going to make you uncomfortable. It's going to, and it's not always going to be fun. And just like I'm uncomfortable at times, like, I had never recorded an Audible book before. I've never run a podcast before. I've never been a sales coach before, but I know how to prepare. I know how to use my curiosity, my honesty, my storytelling, and being uncomfortable, not like to a negative, but just a little, those positive anxiety, those butterflies you get before a sporting match. I like having those all as much as I can have it because that means I'm growing. Yeah.
You're challenging yourself. You're not standing still.
No.
So Casey, for you, what's your view on this whole concept of luck? I like to ask this question because, you hear it, there's some people, typecast others as, they're just lucky, things just work out for them. So there's kind of that camp that it's just some people are lucky and some aren't. And then there's the other camp that it's, you make your own luck. If you want to have things come your way, you've got to get out there and do things. It's only by getting out there and doing things. What's your take on life and this whole concept of luck?
I like the old quote. I don't know who said it, but it's like preparation, luck. The definition of luck is preparation meets opportunity. I definitely believe you create your own luck. Now, have I won lotto? No. Have I got a home run in golf? No. That would be lucky. I created my own luck, my perceived luck, by hours and hours and hours and hours of hard work, hours and hours and hours of phone calls, hours of going to networking events, reaching out to people on LinkedIn. I created my own luck on the football field by spending hours in the weight room. I created my own luck in the business world by making phone calls, by documenting every conversation I had. And if that's luck, then I guess I'm really lucky. I think luck is when people say, you're lucky, that's those people tend to be the people that like to be the victim of their own story and say they're like the same people that say, I love to work out, I just can't, I don't have time, or my knee hurts. Well, then do arms, do sit-ups. When you do sit-ups, that doesn't hurt your knee.
Yeah, that's interesting. There, I don't know that you'll have it over there, but there's a TV show that it's in England. It comes from England, but we have it here in New Zealand too. And I can't remember exactly what it's called, but are you aware of the SAS? What the SAS are? Okay, so SAS, it stands for Special Air Service. They are an elite fighting force that originate from the UK. New Zealand, we have our own SAS. They're similar to, you've got the Green Berets, you've got the Navy SEALs. They're that sort of level. They actually have the SAS and they have SBS, which is Special Boat Service. But SAS, they're more, they parachute in. With Special Boat Service are more water-based. But anyway, so they're some of the best fighting forces in the world. And there's a program that has been developed where ex-SAS members take people from the public and they do a mini SAS course with them. And the message that one of the messages that you get from it is they say is that your mind will give up before your body. Your mind will tell you that you can't go on before your body. And it's so true. I'm watching it and some of these people that get through it, and it's the old thing, mind over matter. They say, oh, I can't go anymore. I can't go anymore. And they're saying your mind is telling you you can't go anymore, but you can. Your mind has just chosen to give up. And yeah, you see it time and time again in the show, and it's amazing, and it's so true. I know, like when I do exercise, sometimes oh yeah, I think I might stop now, and I don't really need to stop. I don't have to stop. My body can go and do more, but my mind's going, oh no, you've done enough. You've done enough. You can quit now.
Have you heard that quote? I can't remember who it's from. It says, whether you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah, yeah, I have heard that. That's so true. Absolutely.
The mind is so in this. I'm in a partnership with this company called Limitless Mind, which is run by Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson, his coach Trevor Moawad, and Russell's brother, Harry Wilson and DJ Eidson. And in this curriculum of mindset training and performance management they teach, there's science that says as humans we have on any day on average 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day. Of those 60 to 80,000 thoughts, 80% are negative.
Wow.
So your point about, yeah, I can't do that. Sure, you're right, you can't. That's why I joke, but I mean dead serious. My 5 biggest swear words, worse than any F-bomb, any GD, any S-bomb, any of the worst language you can say are need to, should to, want to, have to, can't. I don't even know what those mean. Like, what do you mean you need to? No, you don't. You don't need to do anything. Instead, just tell me you will or you won't. Then now you have clarity. It's not going to stress me out because I'm getting stressed out coaching you because you told me you need to do like 50 things. You have time in the day to do all that stuff. Let's pick one and you will do it by tomorrow. Now we're going to start chipping away.
Yeah.
Yeah, power of mind. I tell my kids all the time, it's the biggest untapped muscle we don't exercise enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we've barely touched the surface of what our mind's really capable of. And I think some people have learned to harness the power of their mind better than others. But yeah, we all are on a journey to try and extract as much as we can out of our mind, because it's the key to success, isn't it?
Keep squeezing that lemon.
Yeah. So just to wrap it up, in summary, what do you think would be the key bullet points for people if they want to succeed in life? What are the qualities that they need to possess or to obtain, do you think, in order to succeed?
Most simplistic things. One, follow the 6 foundations of my book is step 1. Begin the day with positivity.
Yeah.
Begin with what, if you're not an optimist, quickly figure out how to be one. I'm such an optimist that I think realists are negative. I think that there's a great book. I know we're going to talk about this in a second, but Ego is the Enemy, written by Ryan Holiday. Great book. And our ego, whenever things aren't getting right or going our way, it tends to get in the way. And so one of the best pieces of advice I got in my life early in my career, the gentleman said, Casey, do you want to be right or do you want to get what you want? You can't have both. And I was like, well, I want to get what I want. He's like, good answer. If you're always that person that says, I want to be right, then you're going to have ego issues the rest of your life. And you're going to probably be part of the problem in most environments. You're going to be probably the person that creates more drama for yourself. So if I'm hitting a chord here with somebody listening right now, take a step back and realize, when's the last time you just, instead of doing what you want to do, you actually asked your wife or kids, hey, what do you guys want to do today? Hey, where do your support team here, where do you guys want to go to lunch today? Like, when's the last time you went and served others before yourself? And I think about that. I think about life like a boomerang and relationships like a boomerang. Because if we throw a boomerang well, hopefully it's going to come back to us, right?
Yeah.
I throw hundreds of boomerangs each day, and I don't keep score. But I can tell you at the end of the day or end of the week, end of the month, I'm dodging boomerangs, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because I'm serving people. So that's how I would, hopefully that gives people some things to think about. But that's what I do.
Fantastic. All right, Casey. Well, thank you so much for that. It's inspirational to hear your story, and particularly too the lessons that you learnt, as that young quarterback, and how that's really impacted on your life in such a positive way, and how adversity can have such a positive outcome ultimately. And I haven't read your book, but I definitely am going to read your book. It sounds really interesting and something that I think most of us could get a lot out of, to be fair. And I love the fact that you kind of that your honesty with your approach, and also the fact that you kind of look big picture. So you're about the relationship rather than the deal. That's the big picture. You might lose the deal, but you're still trying to keep that connection or build that connection with that party, because you don't know where that's going to go. And if their last thought of you is a positive one, that can only be good. So I think that's fantastic.
I'll end you with this. Sarcastically, I said, I want to become the white Maya Angelou. A version of the white I love Maya Angelou. I love what she stands for. I love the impact she has on the world. And one of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes, she says, I'm paraphrasing, but she says, it's not what I said or why I said it, but how I made you feel when I left the room or left the conversation. And that speaks to me. And when we think about life and relationships that way, like, whether you're a company and you focus so much about this pretty PowerPoint on our website, which is important stuff, I get it. But when's the last time you've helped somebody ask really good questions, and you made your client think, or your team think, or your relationship think, or your spouse think? You make people think, they remember you. Like, man, that guy was different, or she was, wow, I can't remember I met someone like that before. That's my goal out of each relationship.
Yeah.
And when we do that, that's when you start changing the world, start changing culture, you start influencing better behaviors around people. And that's what I get inspiration from each day.
Fantastic. Well, that's fantastic. So thank you so much, Casey. That's certainly given us food for thought, and something for us all to aspire to. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
No, you bet. And hopefully when I come over to New Zealand, I'm going to look you up and we'll go have lunch.
Absolutely. I would love to show you around. And the thing I would say to you is, wherever you go in the world, if you can meet a local and get them to show you around, you'll learn a lot more and have a lot more fun. So we'd love to do it.
That'd be fun.
All right.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks for that.